I wanted to welcome you to Tech and Tequila. We're the podcast where cutting edge technology meets smooth conversation, just like your favorite drink. I'm your host, Kat Lopez Shelby, founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions. Basically, I'm your techie chica. And I am here and ready to guide you through the latest tech innovations, industry insights, and some of the behind the scenes stories and information about the digital world. Each week, we'll explore the fascinating intersection of technology and business, all while enjoying a good glass of tequila. So sit back and relax. Let's dive into the world of technology with a twist of lime and a splash of knowledge. So the goal of Tech and Tequila is that at the end of your day, you're not like, oh, I gotta have a drink. You're relaxing from your workday because everything is great. So cheers to another episode of Tech and Tequila. And I'm super excited today because I have Angel from BAM on here. So thank you for joining.
Absolutely, for sure. This is exciting. I like it. But should I have grabbed the tequila before we started?
I think so. But we'll make a little bit of an excuse time. Oh my, I am freezing up today. We will make a little bit of, just a little slide for that based on the fact that we're still working during the business day, but we can definitely have one after 5. So I'm super excited and I really want to get started. So first off, I'm really pumped because you know that I have like a heart and love for entrepreneurs and business owners just like yourself.
Yes,
So how about you kind of give me what I like to call the 411 about Angel and about BAM and kind of what you guys do and where y'all fit.
absolutely, for sure. First, thank you for having me on the show. And as you mentioned, Angel Garcia here. I'm the owner, CEO, founder of the BAM Entrepreneurial Center, which is our big title up top, but we are truly two entities. We have a 501c, 501c nonprofit, BAM Biz Hub. That's the badge I'm wearing right here. And that is focused on entrepreneur education. We have the B Square Hub Accelerator program, which would take an entrepreneur or someone with an idea from thought to launch. So we start first class brainstorming. Okay, you have an idea, great. Have you brainstormed it? Have you fleshed it completely out? And then, we take you through a feasibility. We do market research. We're showing you how and where to go and how to think about it, how to organize it, how to put together a business model. How are you going to make your money, right? Do you know how much your expenses are going to be? There's so many times that a business owner, they know what they're doing, they know what it is, but then when it gets into the business side of it, it's they lose what's going to make them successful. And so what we're trying to do is decrease the failure rate of startups. And it can work for any business. It really can work. The accelerator can work for any idea. So business model, and then, get into marketing, to pricing models. And then by the end of the accelerator, you should be able to write your own business plan. And that's what we focus the nonprofit on. And our goal is to eventually be giving grants, micro grants through the Michael Crane Entrepreneurial Foundation. So all of this started is the brainchild of my business partner, Michael Crane. Rest in peace. He passed away the summer of 2023. But we picked up the torch, picked up the flag, and we're running with it, and we're seeing his purpose and his mission through. And that pervades the entire BAM Entrepreneurial Center, and the foundation is dedicated in his name because he's a kid from Compton who fought and struggled and scrapped his way to without any schooling. A multi-successful entrepreneur, and he retired, and he didn't have to be doing this, but he did it for the fun, and he did it to pay back. He loved helping, especially our disadvantaged communities, like the Latino, brown, and Black communities. He had a special place for him because he grew up, born and raised in Compton, So, and then the other side to us is a BAM Consulting. That is where we offer all of our service from we could set up your LLC, write your operating agreement, help you design a website. We build websites. We do full scale marketing, social media marketing, digital marketing, name it. We have solutions partner such as yourself, Kat, where we interact with small business owners all day long, and they need help with their tech. So we definitely do that. We write business plans. We can get you funded. Business coaching is a big part of it, and here recently, we're always looking, we're always developing, we're always trying to be innovative. And here we're recently kind of dipping our toes into the tech world. We're actually customizing software for small businesses to streamline their workflow processes without having to pay a couple $100,000 out of pocket to get it done. And that's something that's near and dear to our hearts, is because we've been there. We were a startup with no money. How do you get things done when you're on a bootstrap budget? Well, we're trying to figure that out to help the small business owners get through that. So there's lots of things coming up that we all end up the entire focus of everything are entrepreneurs, small business owners.
No, I mean, that was so much covered. I eventually want to get to you talking about the tech at the tail end, but is there a way that you can kind of expand on when yourself and Mr. Michael started BAM? Like, what really was like the moment that you were like, here, we're going to start this. This is why we're starting it. That, like, I don't want to say need, but kind of where it was like, okay, this is how we're going to move forward.
Absolutely. The explanation requires just a bit of backstory. I went to school late in life. I went back to school because I had tons of college hours. I just never graduated because, I'm into everything. Everything interests me. And, so I started out with philosophy, then I went to UT for engineering, and then physics, and my last one was history. I have an associate's degree in electronics. It's wild. But so I had all these hours, and I had 4 businesses at the same time. When I moved here to the Permian Basin from Austin, and and I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely clueless to what I was doing. I was doing pretty good. I was making money, but I didn't have the business skills to keep me sustained for good. And operating 4 business as somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Things happened where it didn't work out. That's a story in itself. But I'll say real quick is that I can write a country song about that particular 2-month period. And so when the businesses didn't work out, I said, you know what? I'm done being an entrepreneur. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my history degree, and I'm going to go teach at the local high school. I'm going to go teach history because I love history, and I'm by nature an educator. I'm a teacher. I love to pass on what I've learned. So I was like, why not? It's a steady paycheck, get summers off, can't beat it. So I enrolled at UTDB, and for semester was history. But then there was this burning, just in the back of my head. Okay, you're not done yet. What was it? How did I not be successful? Because I'm the type of person, I'm very easygoing and nonchalant, but I like to win, even though I don't show it a lot. Like I wasn't okay with not being successful. So the next semester I minored in business. Well, lo and behold, I walk into one of the business classes, and like I always did, I walk into class, I go straight to the back of the classroom, and I try to hide and just take my notes, study, leave, and no big deal. But there's this gentleman in the front of the room, and he was just different. With all these college hours, I've met a lot of professors, and this guy was like none of them. He was up there with his Rolex and his rings, and a fancy suit and $1,000 Italian slippers. I was like, who is this guy? And then the way he would talk, you could talk that you could tell that he was just authentic and he was real, and he had been there and done that. The stories he would tell of his businesses and operating his businesses, just you could tell the well of knowledge that this man possessed. And then he was funny, and he could talk to anybody. He could read you like a book, and we became really good friends. And I ended up we ended up starting I got involved with he was a faculty advisor for a student group called Enactus, and we always
Mhm.
on an organized event. We even had started when the Falcon football came. We started My Falcon Radio, which was a student-run media. It was the only student-run media on campus, and that was when internet was really going with video, and you could get on YouTube and live stream and Facebook live stream. Well, it was a brand new thing, and we were the ones doing it. So we created a huge splash. We were very successful at it, and we ruffled a lot of feathers, and with the cowboy like Michael, and then myself, we were a couple of troublemakers, doing some really good things for the students and of UTPB. So fast forward, I get my bachelor's degree, and my plan is to get my degree, and I'm hightailing it out of town back to Austin because I was only here
Mhm.
for years. The plan, the plan. But and at that time, he got moved over to be the executive director of the Economic Development Center. So now he was, the SBDC. So he was the executive director, and he said, I need a hire, and I'd really like to hire all MBA. He was like, you're
Mhm.
already 38. Why don't you go ahead and get your MBA? And, but it took him a little bit, but he convinced me. So I said, all right. So I re-enrolled to get my MBA, and we worked together. He was my boss, and I was a business consultant. That's where I got the first inkling of consulting, business,
Mhm.
talking to people about their businesses, and really, really learning and diving in to what an LLC was, to why it's important to have one. And, you learn all these little details by being in it. And
Mhm.
we did that for 2 years. I got my master's degree. I graduated. And, we used to run the entrepreneurial challenge for both Midland and Odessa at the time. We rewrote the rules. Michael completely rewrote it to make it more viable for the university, plugged up the holes, and made it a true challenge. And
Mhm.
and we had a blast, and we just felt, because we're dealing with a monolithic institution, right? The federal
Mhm.
government, SBA is federal, and then the university, University of Texas Systems. So when you're trying to help people, but you're also at their mercy of the monolithic structure that you're just a small cog in. Well, we're like, we could do so much more. We could really help these people, and not just be, I considered, now looking back, I considered myself back then a glorified editor when people wanted a business plan, because it's a standardized template. Hey, answer these questions, send it back to me. I'll spruce it up, send it back, and we'll go back and forth till you're happy with it. That's not at all what I do. What I do now is I walk them through and develop a business model that's going to work for them, that's going to give
Mhm.
a higher chance of being successful. So that's the impetus. That's what got us to start BAM. And it was either, hey, I've been here 2 years. I like it, but I don't want to stay here forever. And he was like, well, yeah, I'm ready to go too. And there was a third partner with us, which is one of the reasons the initials BAM, right? I'll either be a
Mhm.
Angel and Michael.
Mhm.
Also business acquisitions and mergers, business
Mhm.
accelerators and mentorship, right? We could flip it. Plus, it's like, when you do something really cool or witness something cool, it's like, bam. All right. So we just loved it. We jumped in, and we 3 years later, we're still breathing.
Which I think you hit on quite a few things in that. But one of the things that you talked about, just in your own personal entrepreneurial experience, I think a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners deal with, and that is, like you said, you had four businesses, is that while you have this, like, let's say you may have one main business, is deciding when to include something else into your business model because it's worthwhile. Or, for lack of a better term, when do you like make the decision and you're like cut and run? And from what I've seen with like you guys, one of the things, and I say you guys because obviously I knew Michael just as well as you, and absolutely heart and love and adornment there. But is helping the business entrepreneur, like you said, you help them build a business plan that is setting them up for success. So how would you say, or what differentiates you from, I mean, I get the being a cog in the machine, but what do you see as the biggest differentiator between like what the Business Entrepreneurial Center does in BAM compared to like an SBA or compared to one of the other organizations out there? And how do you guys really fit a distinct need for entrepreneurs and business owners?
For sure. There's a few things. One, and I think it's the most important, is relationships.
Mhm.
We are we consider ourselves a hub of network. You know, we connect the dots. We have partners. We call them solution partners. You know, because okay, for instance, with the government consultant, I was not allowed by law, they're not allowed by law
Mhm.
to introduce you to a banker, an accountant, a lawyer, you know, all these resources that a business owner needs when they ask, hey, how do I set up an LLC? Well, you can go find a lawyer, or, you know, hey, go look it up on the Texas Secretary of State website, you know, you figure it out.
Mhm.
Or you know, hey, do you know a good accountant? Hold on. My friend Google, here's a list of all the accountants in the area. You should, you know, give them a call,
Mhm.
right? Whereas now you come to me, hey, do you know anything about setting up an LLC? Absolutely. That's a service that I offer. I can also take you through the entire process. I'll hold your hand. We'll get it. We'll set it up right. What's for your business. I will draft your operating agreement, get your EIN number, and you need a good bank. Oh, wait, don't go to that bank because they really are not business friendly. Here, go to this bank or this bank where we have direct relationships with the banker, you know. And then say you're getting a loan. Okay. Oh, hey, well, you need a loan. Okay, we got the business plan, we got everything set up. I'm not going to tell you, hey, go to so and so at this bank. No, I'm going to set an appointment with the banker who is our personal friend and bring her into the office, bring
Mhm.
them into the office with the client so we can have a sit down here in our territory to have the conversation. And then we
Mhm.
can help our client explain their business to the loan officer. You know, so it's relationships. That's the most impactful thing about business. That's how the world operates.
Mhm.
It's business, and I understand why a government entity can't favor. I completely get that. However, this is why
Mhm.
that we are so much more authentic and into helping the small business owner become successful, because you know they could go through several different banks, and a lot of them were like, well, we were, you know, because they don't know that this bank, maybe they don't give loans to this type of business because of their portfolio is already
Mhm.
lopsided in that area, so they don't want to overextend themselves there. You know, there's a lot of information that just, if you don't know about it, you're not going to know unless somebody educates you about it. Another thing is, it kind of relates to the relationships, but you know, it is the networking aspect. You know, we can introduce you to potential clients. You know, we can help you with your marketing, because when we're going through your business and fleshing it out to a business model, where we're helping you articulate what's going to be a good marketing slogan, what's going to get
Mhm.
attention. We're helping you through that entire process. And you know, and I think the education aspect, because the accelerator program is thought to launch. It's the entire deal. What's another differentiator that we would have? There's relationships, there's education. You know, it'll. I know we got some, but it'll come.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I'm not going to speak on exactly what particular government agency that I have attempted to try to work with more than once. And it's basically been like, oh, well, just go online and Google that. And I'm like, obviously, if I could Google it, I wouldn't be asking you the question or how to figure out. And I mean, I think as any business owner or entrepreneur can speak to, you know, even if you're a larger company, rather, you know, you're not just solo uno person running the show. You know, as you get larger, and even sometimes when you're in the growth process, you wear so many hats. Having a resource to go to that's like, okay, we can help you with marketing, or we can help you with this plan and lead you in the right direction, is so important. So, what do you think are the most common business struggles that you see within your clientele, within your base?
It is knowing where to go for what you need.
Mm-hmm.
It is what I went through when I was starting my businesses, and I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even really know. I had heard about what an LLC was and structuring, but I didn't know what it was. So I had 4 businesses, and each one of them was just just with the county, which is fine, but one of them I could have really got in some serious trouble with if
Mm-hmm.
something had happened, and I would have been sued. I would have been protected.
Mm-hmm.
So it's after when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, I was playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is not knowing, not having your books in order.
Mm-hmm.
Not tracking your expenses. Not really knowing, like, even though you have a bookkeeper and accountant, is your bookkeeper accountant just kind of trying to get by and just do it to process your taxes,
Mm-hmm.
or are they helping you to really understand your numbers? Because if you don't understand your numbers, how are you even going to know how to allocate your profit?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you put back into the business? In what areas do you need to invest in your business to grow it? How are you going to grow it? It's really knowing your market. Some entrepreneurs just really get it. They understand their competition, they understand their market, and they have a really good insight and feeling, with regards to their bank account and what their expenses are, and it's just going by the gut. And that's rare, but you see it sometimes, but the vast majority don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be taught, because a lot of them just, hey, well, can you bring in your P&L and your balance sheet?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, what's that? Well, it's like, it's your income statement. And they're like, hey, well, okay, well, I'll ask, the bookkeeper. Okay. And then it comes in, and it's just it's a mess, because they don't really know what the expenses should be allocated to. So at the end of the day, the P&L, or the balance sheet actually isn't a accurate depiction of the health of the company at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Having the books in order, having that knowledge of how to read it correctly, and then how to make decisions based on that. That's a huge one.
Well, I know we've talked about it several times, and I think you touched on it a little bit at the very beginning, but there's a couple of points with that. And one of the things is, like you said, knowing your books. But I think also, as someone who is about to step their little toesies or their feet into the entrepreneurial and the business world, in that essence, is having an understanding that I'm not going to say it never ever happens, but normally people don't like the path to success is a little windy and it's a little longer than you want it to be. I mean,
Every
we've all heard of like those 1 or 2 companies that like, bam, they're like up like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it takes time. And like, I know when I started Shelby Technology Solutions, one of the best advice that I was given by somebody was, hey, it's going to take you 2 years to really get off the ground. So can you survive during those 2 years? Like, how are you going to survive? These are things to think about. Like, what can you do and how can you do it?
Right. And
So,
knowing when you're doing that, how do you go about that? Are you just going off, and are you buying a building from the get-go with that jump without even
mhm,
your name or your brand or your proof of concept, right? That's so important.
mhm,
Before you go in and you get all this overhead and you're spending all this money, do you have a proof of concept? Does your idea work in the
mhm,
market that you're in? Have you tested it out? Have you developed your business model? Or are you just walking in blind?
mhm,
And that's a huge aspect to it, because one of the businesses industries that is most prone to failure is restaurants.
mhm,
And traditionally, because well, to get a restaurant, you need a building, you need people to sit down and eat, you need a big kitchen, you need a lot of equipment, you need employees. Off the bat, that's a lot of overhead. But nobody
mhm,
came. Okay, do you know how to market? Do you have a marketing budget? And are you
mhm.
preparing for that before doors open? Do you know people like your food? So that's a reason that so many restaurants fail. That's why I feel over the last several years, maybe the last decade, there's a new business model for restaurants, and we're seeing it here in Midland now, is where that that food truck goes to a brick and
Mhm.
I think if anybody's opening up a restaurant today, that's the way to go. That's your business model, because you're in for less, and you get to prove your concept of your branding, your menu, you find out who your customers are. You get all this data, all this information, right? We're in the world of data, right? Hey, tech and tequila. It's tech. It's, data. It's all data. We need that data, and, deciding what data to look at is another story, but you need the data to make good decisions. So it's just the example of knowing what you're getting into before you just jump the deep end and roll the dice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I always like to say that I'm kind of like, well, a particular shoe company, I won't name them in case I get in trouble. I just do it. And so I like to try stuff, but I definitely see the point in being like, hey, let's research and find out, especially with restaurants and things like that. And I think that goes into a deeper conversation. Obviously, this is tech and tequila, so we're going to discuss that. But I think some of the things that as you start this entrepreneurial journey, you need to think about is like, what does your tech stack look like? Um, in this day and age, everybody needs some kind of connectivity. But, with any business, it's, do you have regulatory requirements? Are there compliance requirements? Are there things you have to keep up with? And where do you see, I don't want to say people fail, but people kind of go to the left with their tech stack or miss items while they're on the way to growing their business?
I mean, let's start at the basic level. Email, just that right there, right? Like if you're a business, and I have this discussion all the time even with family members, and it's like it's talking to a wall, because if you're a business, and I get emails all the time from, selling me their services with a Gmail, Yahoo, an Outlook. If I see that if I even looked at your email and you're trying to sell me something, I go look at your email and see where it's from. If it's from anything except what your company is.com, delete, block.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with you because you don't take yourself seriously. Why am I going to take you seriously?
It's really interesting that you bring that up because I really think that sometimes when people are starting, and even just some businesses in general, miss out on the opportunity to have their technology stack help to build their brand. And obviously, email is kind of like I say the bottom, but the base of that. But I was working with a client that had been around, I mean, like 25, 30 years. And it was the company's name, and I kid you not, at AOL.com. And I know I had talked about this on like the podcast with Melissa and Pretty Digital Marketing, but I was like, why? I didn't even I mean, I knew AOL existed in some way, shape, or form, but I was like, you still have an email? Like that blew my mind because I think I'm kind of like yourself. Like if I see someone sending me an email and it's their company at Gmail, I understand kind of the back end for some Google Analytics stuff, but I'm like, why do you not have a branded email? Know?
Hey, don't get me wrong. I have a BAM at Gmail, but I don't send it out to anybody. That's for my own internal operation.
No, exactly. Yes, it's crazy. I think one of the other things that you talked about, and I think this is so important for a business starting out, and that is, and I kind of think this goes with marketing, but to have some kind of online presence, like a website, and I always say, you do your website, your Facebook, your Instagram, like go ahead and get everything locked and loaded from the get, even if you're not posting on it. But I mean, do you feel that is the same? Like it's super important? And what are the things that you recommend to people when they're building their digital presence?
Yes, extremely important. Doesn't matter what your business on, everybody is online. You're online. Your customers, I guarantee your customers are online. So you have to have some sort of presence. And it really depends what kind of business you are, but you don't have to spend big money on big advertising, but you do have to be there, or if you're not, okay, let's put it this way. If you're not online in some shape, way, or form, you don't exist. It's very different. It would be extremely rare. I'm not gonna say it can never happen, but I would say it would be extremely rare for there to be a company to exist on pure personal word of mouth without any social media. So your basics, right? Your common grounds: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X. Depending on your business, LinkedIn. Those are your basics. I think a lot of people are even considering TikTok to be part of that. To really get out there and seen and get that organic awareness. So it's extremely important. And the important part also is the website. And it is important that your website matches your social media and it connects and it's flawless. it's a two-way street. Because social media is what drives people to your website to where you sell them. I've said this probably 1,000 times, and I'll say it a couple more 1,000 times. The social media is not a website. It's a good starting point for sure. Don't get me wrong, it's a good starting point, but you have to know that down the road, and sooner than later is always better, that you must have a website. At least get your domain name of what you want. At least go ahead and purchase it. When you're setting up your social media, look for domain names and find something that fits to what you do and who you are, that people can remember. And the whole I'm cool with the whole, hey, misspell this, spell this with an X or a Z or something like that, but not in your domain name, because people are going to look for you and they just hear it, so they're trying to type it in and it's not coming up and you're not popping up on Google, so they're going to move on. People have a really short attention span, for sure. All the studies, we've been talking about it for years. The attention span is not as long as it used to be. And it seems like even with that, the whole TikTok thing really kind of pushed that even further, but yeah, I think it's extremely important to keep your branding. It's about branding. It's about your messaging. Does your social media match your website as far as your colors, your themes, your logo, the things that you're putting out there, and your description? Do your hours match? Is your email contact the same? Your phone number, is everything there, right? Take advantage of all the free stuff. Get your name out on Google. Make sure you're established. There's all kinds of forums where you can go, and there's what's that, Alignable. There's all kinds of them. Just go through. Make sure that your profile for your business is up there, and make sure it matches everything, so it's uniform.
Yeah.
So people can get the impression that you know what you're doing, even though you may not.
Well, and I think, this goes back, and I've been in the tech industry for over 20 years, but I remember even having the beginning meetings with Ring Central and Office at Hand. And one of the recommendations that they were always if you're a solo uno entrepreneur, there's just one of you in the office, go ahead and set up a baby IVR and be press 1 for customer service, press 2 to schedule this, and not you're not being integritous, but it's also when line 104 calls, that's a customer service. When line 101 is calling in, okay, that's for sales. It helps with all that, and it's so important. Excuse me, but definitely. I know at the tail end of the introduction, you were talking about something, and I think two of the biggest topics that we see in technology and in business right now, of course, is the trend with AI and the trend with automation. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I don't get at least weekly some kind of referral or new lead. I would say the 3 top things I get is AI, automation, and then how to protect my business, and from the cybersecurity standpoint of that. I mean, are you seeing the same thing? Do you see people that are hey, I'm going to use this, my ROI is going to improve? What do you see on your side of the house?
There is a lot of that, right? I think here, just over the last couple of weeks, that has exponentially increased, where I think just this week, Sam Altman made a statement that AI is going to create, I can't remember exactly, but he was AI is going to be creating billionaires left and right, basically, is what he decided to say. And, it was okay, so then someone like Sam Altman says that, well, all the hundreds of thousands of groupies and just, they're going to be I'm going to be a billionaire, so I'm going to use AI for this. It's one of those things. It's so fresh. It's like a dog getting a brand new bone or a toy. We're just AI. I love AI, and don't get me wrong, I love it. I use AI all the time, and it's very useful. I would say it's probably on average it cuts about 10 hours of production time of my for my week. So just by using AI, I'm gaining 10 hours of work time, so it is incredibly useful tool. I just right now is the big tsunami, and I think the tsunami is it's still a couple miles out there, but it's coming. It's coming, and it's building up, because there's just so much out there. all the time. There's new things every day. It seems like there's something new, because I subscribe to several AI newsletters already,
Mhm.
just to scan and read the topics, headlines, and if I see something interesting, I'll deep dive in it. But there is just so much coming out, new companies all the time, and you have to be careful because for instance, I was listening to, I forgot what podcast it was, but there was the person the sales guy, he could be selling whatever, let's
Mhm.
put it in that pocket of the car salesman. Well, he's a good salesman and he sees this opportunity in AI, but he has absolutely no idea how to code or put together any kind of tech or but he can sell it. So now he has a YouTube video and he's selling AI. He's getting you to think, hey, you use this in this way, you're going to be a millionaire in 2 years, guaranteed, right? And, people out there say, oh, well, I'm going to buy his course for $7.99. And, the thing you go, they're there. And what are they getting their money's worth? Or, because there's so many other tools that you could be using. So I think that's the confusing part is what do you use? There's a lot of free stuff, but then there's a lot of things AI tools that you pay for. And is that the one you should be paying for? Or is there another one out that's going to benefit you for what you need specific to your business and your industry and how you operate that would work out a lot better for you?
Well, and I think that is really the key. Obviously, I'm going to always talk about it's really important to protect yourself in the world of AI and automation and just in general, from a cybersecurity standpoint. But when I think of like the AI that we use in our business, a lot of it, I don't want to say it's not replacing anybody. What it is it's cutting down the task hours. And, we use an AI email writing thing called Lavender. And one of the things that it does is it shows how long you're working per email that you're sending out. And this may go back to people's attention spans, but it's like it recommends, making, if you have like an email that's, this long with multiple paragraphs, it's like, no, nobody's going to read that. Do one. Like, knock this bad boy down, and you shouldn't spend any more than 15 to 20 minutes on this like an email right there. So but I mean, I see a lot of clients utilize it to help with their social media, to help with things like that. But you guys actually have an extremely interesting product that's coming out, and I know you touch base on it at the very beginning. And I think this is, it's not in the category of AI, but it's in the category of automation, which I think for lots of businesses is just as important. Can you give us a little like teaser or some information about like what verticals, what businesses this will really help, or where you see that going, and kind of a little bit more about it?
Absolutely, and thank you very much for bringing that up, Kat, because it's something that has been in the making for quite a while. It started out as a project because a lot of startups, they don't. It's hard to convince them to spend the $500 or $600 to purchase QuickBooks to keep their books. So we were trying to come up with a way for a business owner to, besides making their own spreadsheet. So we started designing spreadsheets. And we got into it and we came up with some pretty good spreadsheet. The problem is it's a spreadsheet, even though you lock down the formulas, you lock the cells, it's still going to get corrupted in some form or other. Or if you get it to a company, eventually they're going to end up with 20 different copies. And which one's the one that you need to be working on? So from there, that's when we was like, well, we found a way to kind of mimic QuickBooks on the cheap, and it was just that it just became so complicated and so intense that we took it off the table. It's like, you know what, we're going to end up having to go against QuickBooks, and then there's this other free services out there, so there's no revenue stream here. But what came out of that, in that process, we were able to isolate an inventory system, workflows and processes, streamlining, and we found a niche that we could work. So what came out of this original spreadsheet Frankenstein was what we're calling now BAM Workflow Wizard. And it is merely a service of BAM's at the moment until we scale. And then I'm hoping to make that its own entity eventually. But what it is it's a way for a business to track inventory, track inventory that it uses on customer equipment. And that's not the only thing, but it's what we're focused on right now. So I guess I should say at the moment, our niche is mom and pop oil and gas service. That's
Okay.
what we're hitting, because a lot of them out here, it's got to be honest, a lot of them out here are still doing business like the 90s. It's all on paper, so and then there's a human transfer of the inventory parts used for a particular job, and there's always going to be error in that. So at the end of the day, you have to account for the error, the human error. That's just a natural consequence of us being human. And that's and not saying anything bad about humans. That's just what it is, right? But now we get to use the tech to, and now say we have one customer who they do testing, pressure testing. So she came to us because we developed her website. So it's like, is there, you guys could make a portal for my customers so they can log in and they can see their certifications from all the testing. So that's what it was like. Oh, we can use this part of our previous project, implement it in here, and then we'll just create a login on the website that we already built for her. And now kind of streamline it to where they just do the certification, upload it there, and then notify the customer, hey, certification. And, it's just where, like, it even warns them, hey, 30 days until your next certification is due. And so it keeps the customer regulatory compliant. It reduces the labor on the part of the business. It helps them track their inventory on the parts. They track the job, who worked on it, labor hours, in anything else, really any KPI that they choose to really isolate and track. We can implement that in the system, even what job, what rig it came from, who worked on it, who's the truck that went out to pick it up. We can track everything in any metric they want to go by, and it's customized to the business.
Okay. Well, and I think that was one of the questions that I had, because I had obviously looked at the information that you sent over, is when someone says, all right, this sounds great, let's go forward, what time frame are they looking at? Like, what kind of implementation time frame? What should they expect in order for that customization to work for them?
Sure. So one, it depends, right?
Okay.
Of course, on like the size of the business and what they actually want, what the project is. But typically, we could probably have it done within a month, 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
The project debugged and everything.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I think when you go to automation and you talk, and obviously being in West Texas, it's a lot of oil and gas, a lot of oil and gas service companies, a lot of oil and gas adjacent positions. Where do you see, as far as compliance and regulations, where people tend to struggle or where they tend to have difficulties in?
Communication. So for instance, say that there's a machine or even a drilling site, a location that hasn't been permitted, but they thought it was permitted, but it expired. But so now you send your guys out there, and your guys are out there working on it in an expired permit because it slipped by somebody, and it was supposed to be off the books until it got renewed, but it didn't get renewed because somebody dropped the ball, or the paperwork got lost, or whatever reasons. That's a huge one right there, because I mean, if you're working on a site and you're not permitted to work out there, well, you're in trouble. So how about these equipment that requires test? You have to get it tested every and I get it. These companies they're busy. They're 24/7, and they got to keep it running. If you have a trucking company, tires on the road, that's what makes money. Rolling tires, that's what it is. And when you have to bring it in for maintenance or whatever, let's just use a pressure testing equipment. Well, it's high volume, high pressure. Your seals are going to wear out. You're really going to get caught in a situation to where this equipment should be tested tomorrow. Today's the last day, and they're like, man, we're almost finished with this job, but we got this. But so they're going to push it, no doubt they're going to push it. So how far can you push that? And so I think regulatory wise, something happens, a seal busts, somebody gets hurt, and then the investigation comes down and like, oh, this expired 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you're in trouble because you're not compliant and somebody got hurt.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't tell you, and this has been several years ago, but I know when they were looking at updating people to electronic logs and it was like a mandated requirement. I can't tell you how many people like waited until like not, and I won't even say day zero. They waited to get this all set up until like every extension that the government had put in place and, regulatory compliance, whomever it was, had put in place. And they're like, they're having this like, oh, poop emoji moment where they're like, they're really going to do it. And we have to now put this on 68 trucks and we've got like 2.5 weeks. And, and I know that you can agree with me. One of the biggest things that I see with customers, and especially, going past COVID, past the pandemic on, is that when a business puts itself or somehow ends up in a situation where a decision, whether it's tech or anything, has to be done super fast, number one, they don't have a chance to evaluate all the different solutions and say, this is what's going to fit me best. Number two, if they have an existing relationship with like a big company, like let's say an AT&T or a Lumen or somebody, they're going to go with whatever solution they say, even though sometimes those particular companies are trying to shove like a square peg into a round hole and be like, this is going to fit you.
Yeah.
So, having said that, and with this full out discussion, for all the listeners, for everybody who you've worked with, what would you say are the top 3 recommendations that you can make for people? And as well as how can someone get in touch with you if they're like, ma'am, I listened to Angel and this sounds like a perfect fit for what I want to do?
Sure. I think the number one is do you want to start a business? Do you have that thought in your head?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always had this idea, I know it'd work and I just don't know where to start, I work so much, I have a family and, you're always making these excuses, of why you can't start your business, or I don't have the money to do it, or I don't have this or that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one. And that's where our heart is, that's the startup. That's the bootstrap entrepreneur, come in and talk to me. And so just on that one right there, I'll tell you that likely my job is to talk you out of starting your business. So if you can go through a meeting with me and then at the end of it, we can find some place for you to start at to where it makes sense, and where we would run you through a snowball, the snowball effect. How small of a snowball can you start in your particular idea? How can we prove that it's going to work? Proof of concept. And then how can we grow that to where eventually now you can leave your job at some point, and you can get into a building and you can start hiring people. So that's one, come talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
2, you've already started the business. You've already jumped head first. You're just operating, maybe either, and this can be split into, categories, right? It's like, you're making money, but you're making money, but there's nothing in your bank account, or you're not making money and you're about to shut the doors because you don't know what else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're already in it. You've already jumped in the water, let's save you, you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a pivot. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's your process.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're spinning wheels somewhere where you don't need to spin your wheels. Let's help you figure out the mechanics, your business model, and get you on the right track. That's another one. And third is you've already started you're doing good, but you've hit a plateau, but you want to grow, but you can't figure out how to grow. It's like you're capped. And that happens so often that a business gets going and they reach capacity, but the business owner doesn't understand or realize that there was a ceiling there from the get-go because of some limitation, from first setting up what is that? Well, it could be all kinds of things specific to the business. It could be personnel. It could be your processes and systems. It could be your marketing. It could be your website. Maybe you have too many clicks on your website to finally get to where the customer wants to go and they've already left before they buy. Maybe you have, a shopping cart and it always gets left field and they don't complete the process, maybe you have too many clicks. It could be any number of things. We'll help you figure that out. We'll help you retweak your business model. Maybe it's because you need funding. You need an investment. You need an infusion of capital to invest in a certain spot. But you're so busy in your business that you're unable to take the 30,000-foot view and work on your, there's a big difference between working in your business and the operating mechanic, and then looking out from a strategic level and saying, okay, how can I grow this? I need to do, we need to have something else, or just maybe a slight pivot, to get you over the hump. So I think those are the three main sectors of, the guy with the idea, the one who jumped in and is really struggling one way or another, something's not working right, or the one who is doing okay, but they know they can do more.
Oh yeah, those are all good points. And I think something that every single stage that you're talking about, that is so integrally important, or at least you guys offer, is number one, you offer a resource, and as a business owner, the capability to reach out, the understanding that you have the grit to make it through, because we all know that being a business owner, entrepreneur takes grit, and it takes you gotta I cannot remember what it's always, and I've seen it several times. It's when they can't just if you keep getting up, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. What matters is the number of times that you get up and you just keep going, okay, that didn't work, let's try something else.
Right.
And I can't quote one of my mentors on here, but I can say it in the nicest way possible. She always says, I have messed up more times than you have tried. And that is the difference between you and me. So you can all imagine what she actually said, but that's what she said,
I got it. But my mentor, Michael, was right there. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes. So I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you for sharing so much. I'm so excited to hear about your BAM workflow wizard. I think it's a great option for people out there. But I would be remiss. What is the best way for someone to get in touch with you, get in touch with BAM, and set an appointment on the calendar so that you can help them at those stages?
Sure. So we got it's called Bettering Your Business Base, and it's about AI security essentials, what every business needs to know, right? So you, Ms. Kat, and Big Leaf Networks are going to present and give your expertise to this seminar, and it is being hosted by BAM Entrepreneurial Center and the Midland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So that's on February 15th, 6 to 8. And then right after that, on March 5th, we're hosting the Midland Chamber of Commerce mixer here at the BAM Entrepreneurial Center. It's going to be fun. It's always fun. We're going to have live music. We're going to have food from Marty G's Cajun-Niche. He's going to do a crawfish boil. We got Pachucos doing their thing. So it's gonna be a feel-good party. We're going to have some eccentric beer out here. So bring some tequila. We're going to need it.
I definitely will. Thank you so much for being a part of today. I obviously will definitely be at your events coming up, but I definitely recommend for any of our listeners to check it out with all the events, especially if they're in the West Texas area. That's great. But also, book an appointment with you guys, because like you said, from, inception or thought to the tail end, you guys can help. So thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you so much.
2 thumbs up.
Pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.